The second NICU experience healed so much of the trauma from the first because we had the twins
Hmm.
and boy and girl, and get into the room. The place where the girl was set up was the exact same cot our oldest was set up. And
Oh,
so she was set up there,
no,
and
mama.
my husband is like watching them set her up, and it's again a completely different experience.
Hello, and welcome to the Twin Mom Life Podcast. I'm your host, Jess. I created this podcast to help build community, connection, and most importantly, friendships among moms of multiples. Being a twin mom can be amazing and magical. That twin bond is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. But it can also be isolating and overwhelming. I'll be chatting with other twin moms, diving deep into the twin experience, giving advice on what works for us so you don't have to learn the hard way. Juggling two babies at the same time is challenging, but I'm confident we can learn from each other and figure out how to raise these babies together. Hey, Whit, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm good. Bit tired, but I feel like that's just parenting these days, but good.
Yes. Well, why are you tired? Can you tell us about you and your family?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am a recent twin mom. So I had my twins in November. And before that, we had our toddler who is now 2.5. So basically, I am living the life of three under three and trying to figure out what that looks like.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
it's
Like, I
hard.
know you're in the thick of it. I had a very similar setup. My daughter was 3 when the boys were born, and it's just a lot of chaos, and just remember, like, this is just a season, so I'm so thankful that you're even here talking to me because I know there's just, like, a lot going on, so thanks for being here today.
Of course, thanks for having me. Thanks for making the space where you can actually talk about what it's like being a twin mom.
Yes, it's what I wish. I mean, selfishly, I absolutely still need it. My boys are, in my eyes, babies still. They're 2.5, almost 3. But it's really what I was like looking for when I was pregnant with the boys and postpartum. And I basically consumed all the twin resources that there were. And I was like, I want more. So it's been a lot of fun. So thank you. Okay, before we really get into it, I would love to know if you were able to fill your cup today, or if you have plans to do that later today, and maybe even as a postpartum mom, like this week, what you're gonna do to fill your cup for the week?
It is so unpredictable. So
Yeah.
there are a couple things that I do during the week to kind of fill my cup. And depending on how the week or the day goes, I can sneak some time in for myself. So number one would usually be trying to get a workout in. Because my background, I'm a strength coach and I'm an athletic therapist. In Canada, it's not an athletic therapist, but in the States, an athletic trainer. So
Okay, cool.
being active and moving, I just know it just makes me feel so much better. So usually it's trying to get a workout in because I know I can sneak it in at any point. If that doesn't happen because either naps don't go the way I wanted to or the day is just chaotic, I will try and go for a walk. So today we are hoping that if the twins are napping really well, I can just put them in the stroller and we can go for a walk around the neighborhood with our dog. And that it's sunny right now, so I'm just hoping to just enjoy the weather.
Yes, I feel that. I feel like getting outside can just, like, quickly change everyone's mood for the better, like, fresh air, some sunshine. We have had tons of rain this week, and
Hmm.
yesterday we finally got, like, a little bit of sun. It's still, like, relatively gloomy.
Yeah.
So, yes, I feel that. I actually have, like, a kind of terrible but really funny story about a stroller yesterday. Do you wanna hear it for, like,
Yes.
some giggles? Okay. So, like I said, we've been, like, stuck inside, and I just feel like everyone's been going crazy. So, we finally had a break in the rain yesterday. So, I took the kids outside, we're playing outside, and one of my really close friends who's our across the street neighbor comes over. And she has 2 kids also, little, they're 2 and 1. So she comes over in her double stroller,
Yeah.
and it's the kind of stroller, it's not side by side. It's like, I don't think this is the terminology, but I call it like an elevator stroller. And so, like, she comes over and her kids are like playing in the yard. And then my boys are playing in her stroller, like almost doing like peekaboo stuff.
Yeah.
And then she comes up to me and we're like chatting and she was like, "Oh, I think someone pooped." And I'm like, "Oh." And I'm thinking both of my boys pooped earlier, so it's probably not mine. So she checks everyone's diaper and she was like, "Oh, my kids are clear."
Yeah.
And then I go to check one of my son's diaper. Oh my gosh, he's almost
No.
3. It was like a blowout. I was like, "Oh." Oh,
Oh, no.
all over her stroller.
Oh,
M
I
mortified.
was
I
gonna
was
say,
like,
just like
"Oh."
earth can open and swallow me in that moment.
I, like, had to call my husband. I'm like, "I need backup." Like, Wyatt is covered in poo, literally. Like, it's everywhere. I'm like, "This is a bath situation," and, like, I can't grab Waylon because I am poopy,
Yep.
and then, like, I need to take her stroller from her so that I can get this professionally
Gosh.
cleaned. I'm like, "Thank goodness she's, like, a close friend." She was like, "Oh my gosh, it's, like, not a big deal." And I'm like, "Thank you for your grace. I'm dying."
I think as moms, we just get it though. It's like, of course, this is how it would go. Like, I feel like if it's like someone that's not a parent, you're like, there's a bit more of a they freak out a bit. But when you're a parent, you're like, yeah, this is how it would go. Let's
Sure.
just deal with it and move on.
Yes, our first outside time in several days was like a poopy disaster,
Yeah.
so that's my silly story. I haven't really had a chance to fill my cup today. I also love to try to find time to work out. It just makes me feel, like, good and strong and clears my mind, and I try to go to yoga on Thursday nights.
Hmm.
I have not booked that class, so maybe this is my reminder to, like, go do that after we chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I find I'm a better mom after I work out or I do something for myself. Like I just have more patience. I'm like
Yes.
the endorphins are flowing. So everything is like working
Yes.
out. Yeah.
Yes, like, you literally feel better, like, in your body and in your heart.
Yeah, exactly. It could be the whole like you took some time for yourself and your glass is full again. So I
Mhm.
try really hard to make that a priority because I know I will be such a better mom than when I don't do that.
Absolutely, and it's so impressive to be able to be doing that already just, like, 4 months postpartum,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's when it really matters, and then you're creating a routine
Yeah.
of doing that consistently, almost preventatively. Like, I think for me, I was, like, burning out and then doing some kind of self-care,
Hmm.
but I'm like, "This isn't a good cycle to, like, reach burnout and then do something for myself." Like, we need to do this, like, consistently so that the burnout doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you're already doing that, and maybe it helps that you had a singleton first.
Having a singleton and the way we had the singleton, I find helped me realize that I need to find good and productive ways to be able to get rid of stress. And if I don't do that, I can become very, I become like a very like inward person. And when I become really inward, like it's just like one negative thought after the other, and I'm trying to crawl out of it,
Mm,
and just that just doesn't happen. So I've realized that if I can get a workout in before, or if I can do something for myself before, then I don't reach that point of burnout. Because when I reach the like
yes.
when you reach that burnout, it's so hard to get out of it. But when you are,
Yes.
you know, not there, then you can find little ways to kind of correct and adjust as you go.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you were mentioning your daughter. Can you tell us about that? I know you had mentioned before that you had high risk pregnancies with both the twins and with your singleton.
Yes. So with my first pregnancy started really well. It was going really well. I was quite active. And then I got to 25 weeks and I just went to do like my usual follow up with the OB. And actually the week before that, my mucus plug had fallen out. Uh,
Oh,
and I
wow.
remember calling the clinic, and they just told me like, "Oh, like as long as you're not bleeding, you're not getting any cramping, like there shouldn't be anything you should be worried about." And first pregnancy, you're not really you don't know as much. So I'm like, all right, there's nothing I should be worried about. I should be okay. And then I went to my follow up with my OB, and we're going through the follow up as usual. And she's about to be like, okay, like everything looks good. We should go. You can go home. And I was like, can we talk about my mucus plug falling out? Like that's maybe a
Yeah.
concern.
That seems, like, big. Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, I'm just gonna do one last exam. And she does an exam, and she's like, "You know what? Like, I'm just gonna send you for an ultrasound, like, just a little follow-up and see how things are." And thankfully, I could get an ultrasound booked that same day. So I went to the ultrasound, and it's always fun, like, you go to the ultrasound, they're like, "Alright, we're all done, you can go get your pictures." This one was like, "Alright, we're gonna take you to a different room, and there's gonna be a doctor that comes to
Mm.
talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay."
Like, uh-oh.
See, in my head, like, there weren't any bells ringing. It was just kinda like, "Alright, I guess this is new, like, maybe they'll tell me something that I don't know." So I remember going in the room, and I am all, like, relaxed, and the doctor comes in, and she's like, "So not to freak you out or anything, but it kind of looks like you have a really low amount of amniotic fluid, and you might be going into labor, so we would like you to go to the hospital that you're planning on having the baby at, just for observation." And in my head, I'm like, "Okay, well, can I go to work and then go to the hospital right after?" And she's like, "No, no, no. Like, I need you to go now." Like, I was so oblivious. I don't know, oblivious, just like, I don't know if the word is delusional of what I thought was happening. I'm like, "Oh, it's fine.
You just, like,
Everything's."
didn't
Yeah,
know.
like, I've been
Sure.
healthy this whole pregnancy. Like, what? So I remember going to the hospital, checking into labor and delivery, and the OB that was working that time, again, does, like, their examination. They're like, "Oh, everything looks good. I'm not really sure why they sent you here." And, she was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna do a last-minute internal exam and kinda see how things are." Because she says sometimes ultrasounds and what's actually happened, there might be a bit of a discrepancy. So she does an
Okay.
internal exam, and she's like, "Oh, okay. You are still in your second trimester, so we're gonna need you to go to the high risk hospital in town that has a level 3 NICU." So level 3 NICU,
Oh,
yeah. So,
wow.
like, that's, like, the highest emergency of, like, highest risk NICU. My husband and I, we go pack a bag, and we go to the hospital, and they're basically giving me the steroid shots because 'cause they're like, "Okay, your body looks like it's gonna go into labor at any point, and we need to give you steroid shots because the baby hasn't developed surfactant yet, which is what, like, keeps the lungs open. So this is just gonna help them develop a bit of surfactant a bit earlier, just that if they're born, they have a higher risk of surviving." So I'm like, "All right." So stay in the hospital for 3 days, and nothing happens, and the doctor's like, "All right, you know what? Sometimes," I think I was, like, 2 centimeters dilated, something like that, and they're like, "You know what? Sometimes that's just how things stay, and you could end up having, like, a full pregnancy, no issues." So I was discharged, and they were like, "If anything feels off, just go to labor and delivery. This is the hospital you should go to." I was like, "Okay, great." I felt fine. I went home Thursday night, and then Friday, days kinda going normally, nothing unexpected. Friday afternoon, I started feeling a little bit off, but I'm like, "You know what? I'm just tired. It's been a very stressful week. I just need to
Sure.
take things slowly." By Friday night, I had like a gut feeling that's just something wasn't right. Like, I wasn't in pain, I wasn't uncomfortable, just something wasn't right. And my husband's like, "You know what? You're probably just tired. Let's just go to bed." So we went to bed early. I woke up around midnight, and I'm like, I still, like, there's a gut feeling that something isn't right. So I woke my husband up. I'm like, "We should just go to labor and delivery. I'd rather go there and they tell me, 'You know what? You're crazy. Everything is okay. Just go home.' Then something happened at home, and, then I'm, like, regretting it for the rest of our lives." So I wake him up.
Sure. Intuition is
Oh,
real.
I
Like, intuition is so
so
real.
real. This is, like, my biggest experience of, like, "Yep, I'm just gonna trust my gut no matter what, even though I can't explain it." So we go to the hospital, and I started feeling uncomfortable on the way there. It's, like, a 20-minute drive. So we leave the house around, like, 12:15, 12:30. We get to the hospital, check into labor and delivery. And the OB that was on staff at that moment was doing a C-section. So they were like, "All right, we're gonna try and keep you as comfortable as we can. And once they're done the C-section, they'll come get you." OB comes to get me, or OB comes to take a look and see what's going on. And they're like, "All right, it looks like you're in labor." I think I was like 6 centimeters dilated at that point, and baby is
And
breached.
you're only 25
Only
weeks?
25 weeks, and baby is breached. And she's like, "We
Oh.
are having this baby right now." I'm like, "Okay." So my husband and I are trying to wrap our head around the fact that she's coming at 25 weeks. And the OB, like, I remember this vividly. So the OB like tells me, like, yes, we're having a C-section. I am going to go get the nurse to tell the nurse to prep. And in that moment, my water breaks and baby's like coming immediately. So like at that point, everyone like stops what they're doing and they rush around our bed. So they're like unhooking the bed to try and get me in the OR. Someone is handing my husband gowns
Stop.
and trying to get him to go in. And basically there's like a nurse whose main job was just to make sure that baby didn't come out. Like that whole so it's like you're wheeling me in the OR room. I'm like freaking out and being like, "Well, I need Josh there. Like I need my husband." They're like, "He's coming, he's coming." And they wheel me into the OR room and there are like 12, 15 people there just waiting. And they put me under and she was born at 2:30. So we got to the hospital at like 1 something, 2:30. She was born emergency
Stop.
C-section. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, did they have to put you under, like, under
Oh,
general
immediately,
anesthesia
yes, because they were like, "We don't have time."
because it was that big of an
Yes.
emergency?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, they're like, "We
gosh,
don't
that's
have time for
wild.
anything to we didn't have they didn't have time for, like, the, epidural or anesthesia to work." They're like, "We just need to go in right now to save her life."
Oh, yeah, I would be like, anything y but how wild? Like, were you even really having contractions or you just kind of felt,
So,
like, off?
looking back at it, I think I was having contractions, but they didn't start like, between contraction and the time when she was born, an hour and a half? Like,
That's
everything
wild.
just, like,
That's so wild.
happened so fast.
So fast. I'm so glad that you followed your gut. You know, you were like, "Something's weird, let's go
Yeah,
now." Because, wow, okay, I'm, like, wrapping my head around this. I'm
it's
like, I know that you said that you were high risk and that you had NICU time, but I had no idea that was, like, the birth story. That is wild and a lot. Okay, so then what happened next? She, like, had to go to the NICU and
yes, so she was in the NICU for, 3 months, and so my
okay.
first postpartum experience was trying to deal with baby blues and trying to deal with being
Mm,
postpartum and dealing with this high stress situation. Because even when she was in the NICU, there were all these things that they were unsure how it was gonna go. Like, they're like, "Okay, her brain hasn't fully developed. Her lungs haven't fully developed." There are all these different situations that, like, we're gonna try all these interventions, and if it doesn't work, like, surgery might be the case. So here we are, like, I think at one point she was 31 weeks gestation, like, in the NICU, and we're looking at probably having to do a surgery. So I am, like, in the thick of postpartum trying to find a way to be strong, but I'm also in the NICU with
yeah.
a baby who is, like, fighting her, like, hardest to live, and I have to be strong and I have to sit by her side, but inside my brain, I'm like, how did I end up here?" And I am trying to deal with all the
Yeah,
different
yeah.
hormones and, definitely one of the hardest moments of I'd say, like, of our lives. And also trying I think the hardest part was living in the NICU and trying to live life outside. So in that period of time, you have birthdays, you have holidays, you have, like Thanksgiving is
Mm.
there. And I'm like trying so hard to be thankful for something. Like, I'm thankful she's alive, but also I'm like, why are we here? Like, what did we do to deserve this? Um, so yeah, so that is when I learned that if I didn't work out, if I didn't do something, those thoughts would be overwhelming to the point that I wouldn't wanna get out of bed in the morning, or I wouldn't wanna you just wanna, like, I feel the best way I feel like I just wanna go inwards and lock myself up and just not talk to anyone because 'cause I'm like, how do you live life when you've got a baby that's fighting the NICU? Yeah, the dichotomy of it all. Um
I feel like you phrased it so perfectly as, like, when you're going through something so life altering, like, how do you just go back to
Mhm,
normal? Like, how do you do that? I'm gonna cut part of this out, to be honest, because I am not ready to share this
yeah.
personally, like, with whoever listens to the podcast, but, um, my daughter had a seizure 2 weeks
Oh, no.
ago, and it was, like, the biggest life like, the biggest and scariest thing I've ever had to go through as a parent, and, like, I had to call 911, and she was hospitalized, and, like, we had never had that kind of, like, medical event in our lives, and then everything came back normal. They think it was, like, a freak thing, and then the neurologist was like, "Oh, yeah, she can go to school tomorrow," and I'm like, "Are you
Mhm.
crazy?" So, I I just when you said that, I was like, I feel that so deeply, and I honestly probably wouldn't have understood exactly what you meant, like, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, because I've never had, like, something so wild happen in my life.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, I'm just that is all a lot. And then it's like, yeah, how do you, like, move on from that and just go about normal and then not be, like,
Mhm.
scared? And I think, like, a really big difference, like, when I had my daughter, there was no thought in my mind that we would have NICU time. Like, that didn't what it wasn't even a
Mhm.
thought. Where at least when I had twins, it was, like, something that I had heard so much that I was, like, kind of mentally preparing
Yeah.
myself for. So I'm sure it wasn't even on your
Yeah.
radar. Like, why would that be on your
Exactly.
radar?
Exactly. It is you go, like, you hear so many stories about pregnancies, and you're always like, "Oh, like, you get pregnant, you go for, like, 1st, 2nd, 3rd trimester, you have the baby, you bring the baby home, you have postpartum." Like, in your head, that is the journey. So to have
Mhm.
something like this thrown into it, where your journey is not the typical one and you have to go through it, I find it's like a whole
Mhm.
different mind game of its own.
Yeah.
So that was our experience, and I have to say, like, I'm so grateful we had fantastic doctors. The I always have the
Mm.
doctors and the nurses at the NICU are angels on this planet, and they don't get enough recognition as they should, because you think, like, they're there for the babies, but they're also there for the parents. Because the amount of times there's this one,
Mm.
there's this one exam they do for babies in the NICU, and it's basically checking their eyes to make sure that their eyes are developing properly. And Jess, it is one of the most and one of the hardest, like, appointments or, like, exams I've had to watch her go through, because they are putting all this light in her eyes, and here's, like, this newborn baby that you just wanna protect, but they have to check her eyes, and you're trying to, like, move her eyes around with all these instruments, and it's, like, it's gorish, like, just not the greatest one, and she had to have it done every 2 weeks. The nurses knew
Ugh.
I could barely handle it. So the amount of times that she would have that exam and I'm sitting by her NICU bed and just trying to be strong, and a nurse would come and just hold my hand while the procedure happened, infinite. Like, I feel like every single time there was always someone there that's like, "Okay, you're just gonna hold my hand. She's fine. She's crying, but that's okay. Crying means her lungs are working." So just trying to keep me on the positive side of
Mm.
things, that I can, like, walking out of the NICU, it wasn't just her they took care of, but I felt like they also took care of me. We're just
Mm.
absolute
Oh my
angels
gosh.
on this planet. Um
Well, and that makes a huge difference. Like, if you have a doctor with, like, terrible bedside manner or is, like, rude, then you're not going to
mhm,
trust them, and you need to be able to trust this person. Like, they have the most precious thing that you have, they're, like,
yeah,
caring for. So, I love hearing that you just, like, were that your baby and that you were loved
mhm,
on by your medical team, because that really does make a big difference, and I'm just so glad that they were there and they were supporting
yeah,
you too.
yeah, no, we got excellent care, and my daughter is doing as great as she's doing today because of the care that we got in an NICU, and she is thriving. Like, I'm so grateful of how well she's doing. So yes, that was our first our first NICU experience. So then finding out that we were expecting twins, I'm like, "Oh, no. Here we go again."
I bet. I do have before we move on to, like, the twins and that
Mhm.
pregnancy. Okay, so how big was she when she was
She was
born?
1 pound, 8 ounces.
Oh my
She was like
god.
I remember she was as, like, slightly bigger than my husband's hand. Like, I Let me see if I even have that picture because it was ins
Oh, I know, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's wild." And then I know that you were mentioning, okay, she had 3 months
Mhm.
in the NICU, and then you were mentioning that she might have needed surgeries. Did she end up needing any
No, so,
surgeries? Oh, that's
the
great.
last I think the step before surgery, like, things just started to resolve on their own, and I was like, "Okay." Like, I was so frustrated by them trying different ways to manage it without needing surgery. Um, so so by the time we got to the point where it was like, "Oh, well, we're gonna try this one more procedure, and if it doesn't work, like, surgery's down the road." I was like, "Can we just do the surgery? I'm tired of the, 'Oh, we're gonna try this.' It doesn't work. Oh, we're gonna try this. It
Mm,
doesn't work." So but thankfully, she did not.
sure.
She did not need the surgery, and I am thankful that we waited.
That's so incredible to be born at basically 1.5 pounds, spend 3 months in the NICU, and
So
need
that's my
no
husband's hand, and that's her.
Oh my gosh, that's oh my gosh, so teeny tiny, and her
Yeah.
little legs. It's like string
Oh, yeah.
beans.
Like,
Oh, sweet
just the
girl.
tiniest thing.
And I just yeah, and it like, maybe I'll cut this part out too. But, like, I didn't have a NICU experience with either of my
Mhm.
births, and I had always heard like, I can, of course, like, empathize, like, I can't imagine, like, the cords and the IVs and all the tests, like, how overwhelming. And then to have it experienced with my daughter is 6, so it is different, like, it was still heartbreaking, but now I have that
Yeah,
experience now, and it
yeah.
wasn't on a baby. And
I I think
yeah.
it doesn't matter whether it's a baby or your child is, like, 35 years old. Because I remember, like, I was going through this, but then, like, I look at it from the lens of my mom, of her watching her daughter go through it and not being able to help. Like,
Aw.
your heart still breaks.
Yeah.
Now
Oh, that's good.
you still have these memories, you still have this trauma that comes with it, and,
Yeah.
I feel like it sticks with you, and that helplessness in the moment is something that you'd feel as a parent, whether
Yeah.
it is a 25-weeker in a NICU or you're, I don't know, like 35-year-old going through something. So
Yeah. Sorry, I
it's
wasn't
okay.
expecting to cry.
It is hard. Being a parent is
It's
so hard. So hard and yeah.
Mhm. I just feel like you're doing such a good job, like, putting into words what has been on my heart. Like, feeling helpless and kind of being at the mercy of, like, the medical providers. So, we also had a very good experience with
Good.
all of our doctors and nurses, like, we felt like there was no stone unturned, so to speak, like, they
Mhm.
were very thorough. So, I just feel you, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through all of that, but I am thankful that, like I said earlier, that, like, she was loved on, you guys were loved on, and that she's, like, healthy and
Yeah.
thriving now.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's wild. What a journey.
And then you got pregnant with twins and thought,
Here we go
here we
again.
go again."
So, before we even decided to have another, we had the conversation of, like, what would it look like if we had another kid and they end up in the NICU again? Because all these tests were done and no one could really fully explain to me why our daughter was born early. They were like, "Oh, it could have been, um, a hormonal thing, or it could have been or, an incompetent cervix, or it could have been" like, they just kept on, like, throwing different ideas at me, but no feel like
I hate that terminology. Incompetent, you're like, "Okay, like, failure to thrive?"
I
I'm like,
like,
"Can we
there's
work on the
I
medical
know.
terminology here?"
It is
It's mean.
I feel like it's one of the things that, like, whoever came up with those terms early on didn't really understand it, and now that I feel like we're understanding it a bit better, maybe better term like geriatric pregnancy, like, really? Right? Like,
That's mean.
that's not nice, and
That's
also,
not
why don't we,
nice.
like, you're, like, before because you're above was it 35? I'm like, "That's just rude,
Mhm.
first of all." So, like, we're
Mhm.
beginning to get, like, better
Yes.
terminology for it, I would hope.
Mhm. But that's hard
Yes.
to not have an answer, like, that they can give you these potential scenarios, but that you were never able to understand 100% what happened, and then that's terrifying.
Yes.
Like, how do you move on?
I wanna know more, like, it doesn't just happen. Yeah, yeah. That is it's very frustrating, and it's the idea of, like, you're making decisions without knowing the full picture, and
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah, yeah. Are you, like, in my mind right now?
we've been through similar things, so I feel like you just understand what I'm saying.
It's just wild because I feel like, of course, like I said, like, I can empathize with everybody. Like, oh my gosh, like, I could understand, I could put
Mhm.
myself in your shoes. But, like, literally, we would be having a different conversation if we would have had this 2 weeks ago, you know?
And being able to talk
So,
about it. I know, like, that's partially.
it's hard. I'm the kind of person where, like, I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
talk about it 85
Yep.
times because that's how I process it. Like, clearly, I have a podcast, like, I like to talk it out. And, like, my husband's like, "I'm done talking about the situation because
Mhm.
it's obviously emotional." And I'm like, "It's not emotional for me. I literally just cried." But, like, that is
Yes.
how I process things. So, it is nice to be able to talk about it. And I will say one other thing. I have had moms, like, share their birth stories or their NICU experiences
Mhm.
on the podcast often, and then they'll listen to it back, and they're like, "I have shared my story with, like, my friends and my family several times, but listening it back and hearing me
Oh,
talking about it
yes.
was, like, therapeutic." I'm like, "I didn't even think about
It
that. That's
is.
so
It is.
cool."
And I think it's the talking and processing, because every single time you talk about it, you're gonna process a different
Yeah.
part of it or a different piece of it, and hearing yourself talk about it,
Yes.
then you get to, like, it's almost like you're receiving that information again for the second time. I
Mhm.
actually did a podcast last year, I believe, and it was talking just basically about NICU experience, and I mentioned something that carried me through the NICU experience with the twins, but also carried me through the pregnancy with the twins. It is possible to be mourning and grateful at the same time. Like, you could be like, I am,
Mm.
or supposed to have grief and be grateful at the same time. Like, you might be grieving how you thought your pregnancy would go, or how you thought your postpartum would go,
Mhm.
or how you thought how, like, you thought the NICU experience would go, or say how you thought, yeah, how you thought like a birth would go, but still be grateful that your kids are still here. Like, you can't be like, oh, I just have to be grateful and
Mhm.
ignore the grieving part of it all. And two things can be true at the same time. Yeah. So every single time I find I am, like, overwhelmed with just three under three life, I'm like, all right, it is possible for me to be really grateful to have these three amazing kids, but also feel like right now it is just a lot. And that helps with the mom guilt sometimes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are in a position where you don't really understand, like, I like what you said, like, you don't know how to move forward because you
Yes.
don't really know the full picture. So so that's where you guys were, like, deciding
Yep.
whether you want to
So
grow your
that's
family or
that's where
not.
we were at. We both come from big families. So I've got two brothers. My husband has a brother and two sisters. So we understand the importance of siblings, and our siblings are so close. Like, I am so grateful we have these things called sibling nights, where it is basically my siblings, my husband's siblings, and now we just like get together and we'll have like
That's
Christmas
so
dinners,
sweet.
or we'll have like karaoke nights. Like, it's just we're just so tight, so
That's
special,
special.
and
That's really
I
special.
wanted to give our daughter that opportunity as well. So we sat and we thought about it and we're like, okay, we don't have all the pictures, but there is a chance that we can give her a sibling. Like, we can give her someone to still like enjoy that closeness that we have, someone to go through life with. And I heard this thing, I think like Josh sent it to me, it might have been like a reel or something. And it was like how um you only get a certain amount of time. Like, I think like You meet your partner later in life, you meet your parents a little bit older, but how your sibling is the one that you're gonna spend the majority of your life with. Like, they're gonna be that one constant, and I was like, "Okay."
Mm.
Like, we need to give it a shot. So, we decided that we were going to give it another shot. If we ended up in NICU again, we will deal with it however we have to deal with it. But it was worth trying again to give our daughter a sibling. So, we decided to try and went to the first ultrasound, and they're like I have to laugh because our first ultrasound experience was the funniest thing I think I've ever experienced. Because we go in and we're having the ultrasound, and I don't think that the tech knew that we didn't know it was twins. Because she goes and she's, like, doing the ultrasound, and she's like, "Alright, there's baby's heartbeat, like, everything is going okay. There's other baby's heartbeat, everything's going okay," and we're like, "Oh, wait a minute. Let's backtrack. What did you say?"
Like, wait.
And she's like, "Oh, you didn't know?" And we're like, "No." Like,
Oh my
so
gosh.
here's the shock of, like of course, like, there's the shock of, like, "Oh my gosh, there's 2." And then there's, like, excitement that there's 2, but then there's, like, "Oh, suddenly the chances of NICU is not just something that we're talking about. Here's some like, the chances." Yeah.
Right. It's so much
So
higher.
that whole week was a roller coaster of
Mm,
emotions.
I bet.
My sister-in-law is doing her residency to be an OB, and she was like, "Alright, we are going to try and get you in the care of the best OB she can think of for twins." And I was able to work with this amazing OB during my pregnancy with the twins. Like, she specializes in high-risk pregnancies, specializes in twins. So that helped me a lot with my anxiety of, like, going not just going through a pregnancy,
Yeah.
but going through another high-risk pregnancy or hitting certain milestones, pregnancy milestones, yeah, that I didn't with the toddler, or certain milestones that like, the week where I was pregnant, like, my 25 weeks when I was pregnant with the twins, I was I don't think I could explain how stressed I was that whole time.
I can't imagine. That is like PTSD. Like, you're like, how can you not be
Yeah,
thinking about that kind of nonstop
yeah.
during that week?
And I remember just being like, "Alright, let's" like, "We made it to 25, let's make it to 26, let's make it to 27," and just trying to, like, count the weeks, and every single time, the
Mhm.
smallest thing would be not going the way I would want it to. So I remember having an ultrasound at 26 weeks, and they were being like so I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Um, this, OB that I was sent to, the one that specialized in high-risk pregnancy, she was like my first appointment with her, she was determined to figure out why my toddler came early. So she's like, "Alright, here, I wanna
Mm.
hear your story. I wanna hear" oh, she's fantastic. Like,
I
I
love her already.
loved her. "I wanna hear your story, and I wanna see how your birth story went. I wanna look at the medical records." So she looked at everything and she was like, "Alright." So it ended up being that, like, I did have an incompetent cervix, so that was the issue. And the way they normally treat it would be, "Alright, it's been determined that you have an incompetent cervix. We are going to give you progesterone hormone to kind of balance things throughout your pregnancy." So just
Okay.
try and like make sure that your body doesn't go into labor earlier than it should. And then the other option was, or the more advanced option was having a cerclage. Yes. So I
Okay.
don't know if you
Okay.
know what a cerclage is or if you've
I've heard of that, but I feel like you should explain it. So someone who's listening who hasn't heard what that is, can you give like a
yeah. So a cerclage is basically a stitch that they put through your cervix to make sure it doesn't open before it has to. That's basically that's basically what it is. Like one stitch, they go and put the stitch.
perfect. That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure if it was like actually a stitch or if it was something like
Yeah, it's actually
that
a
they
stitch that they
placed.
go in and it just kinda like it's like a really hard stitch.
Okay.
Um, so she was like yeah, so my OB was like, "Okay, this is like you have an incompetent cervix. We're not even gonna try the progesterone." She's like, "You've had enough trauma with the first one. We wanna give you the best care that we possibly can." So I had the
Mm.
cerclage the cerclage placed. And then it was monitoring me throughout my pregnancy. I think I saw her every 2 to 3 weeks.
What week was that placed?
Earlier on, they don't wanna do too many things just to kinda affect the pregnancy with how it's progressing, so they're like, "Let's just wait till 2nd trimester, and then we'll get it on." I think the timeline, I might be wrong, but the timeline that they like to put it between 13 and 15 or 16 weeks. Because earlier on,
Okay.
things might be too sensitive, and that might affect the pregnancy, so they're like, "We're just gonna wait. Let the body figure out what it's doing, and then, get the cerclage
Sure.
done." Yeah, so had the cerclage done, was monitored every, like, 2 to 3 weeks, and when we got to 26 weeks, my cervix started to wanna open. I remember going into the ultrasound and just like a regular ultrasound, and you're like, "All right, we are going to check babies. Babies are okay. Let's check the cerclage." And you're like, "Yeah, your cervix is trying really hard to open." And I remember just like bawling in that appointment and being like, "Here we go again. We're going through this." My
Oh,
husband was with me at that appointment, and I remember the doctor basically coming and holding my hand and being like, "Look, all we're saying is that this just proves that the cerclage was the right option. We're not saying the babies are coming today."
I love your doctor.
She was the best doctor I could have been given because she could understand where I was coming from and would
Yeah.
have the right words that I needed to hear in that moment and would do interventions that were needed at the right time. Like, she was just unreal. Yeah, so basically, I remember her coming to me and, like, looking at me and being like, "Babies aren't coming today. Cerclage, it just tells that the cerclage is the right option, and let's trust the cerclage to do the work it has to do." I was like, "Okay." I still cried the whole day because every single time I'm like, "What if the cerclage doesn't work, and what if it fails?" Yeah, and we made it to 30 weeks, and he's like, "All right, see, like, it did work." Oh, well, we made it to 30 weeks, and then at 30 weeks, I started having pieces of my mucus plug that were falling out. And I'm like, all right, suddenly the NICU experience is becoming like a lot more real than what it was before. And again, I had an appointment with her and she's like, all right, yes, high chance of NICU experience, but this time we are past the micro preemie stage that my daughter was at. Um,
Yeah.
and she's like, your lungs are a lot more developed, so your NICU experience is going to be different. And suddenly she's like, just to help me feel a lot
Mm.
better, my monitoring became like every week instead of every 2 weeks, just to be like, you know what, we're just keeping an eye on
Oh
on how things are progressing. And we made it to 34 weeks. Twins were born at 34 and 4.
oh my gosh, that's incredible. I just thought you were gonna say, "Oh, they were born at 30." Oh my gosh, 34 is, like, so good.
No, we made it to 34 and 4. And I remember I had an appointment with her and we do the ultrasound and I just was not like I was getting a lot of back pain. I was getting some contractions. I went to go see her in her office and she's like, she does an exam and she's like, you need to go to the hospital right now. Like, so I had, because my first was an emergency C-section, I had something called vertical C-section, which is different than your typical horizontal C-section. Oh, so
Okay.
it's called a traditional C-section, yes.
Oh,
So, yes,
okay, so they had to cut a vertical line.
it was an emergency, yeah. So they had to do a vertical,
Oh my goodness.
might be like vertical might be the wrong term, but I know it's called a traditional C-section, which is different than your horizontal one. And what that meant was, I had a higher chance of a uterine abruption if I had a contraction, if I went into labor. So, partially why they were monitoring me so often, like once a week closer to the end, just to make sure that I never got to the contraction part, just because the fibers heal differently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I went to the appointment at 34 and 4, and she's like, yeah, your body's looking like it wants to go into labor. You should go in. We're just going to have a C section that day. So, of course, I start to freak out because I'm like, oh, we're not at 36 weeks. Like, NICU experience. And I'm like, I don't want to go there again. Like, I don't want to be in that same situation. And then she had the conversation of like, okay, Babies are 34 and 4. They have enough surfactant in their lungs right now. So their lungs are mostly developed. Right now, we just need them to get a little bit bigger. So right now, these babies being born would be called feeders and growers. That's all they would need to do in the NICU is just to get a little bit bigger. You've done a great job. We've made it this far. Your body has done what it has to do. And now we just have to get them out for your safety and for their safety. So that helped me feel a little bit better. So we went to the hospital, had a completely different experience than with my first. Like I remember calling my husband. He came back home from work. We picked up our daughter, had someone to watch her. We like packed our bags, went to the hospital. We're like talking the last minute like conversation about names. And we get there and we're sitting and talking and laughing. While when our first was born, it was like I was in pain. He was like, what on earth is happening right now? Nurses are rushing in and out. Like this one was so serene.
Mm.
And then when it was time to have the C-section, nurse came in, put the IV. I walked into the OR room. He was right there with me. The twins were born and they had to go to the NICU. But this time he could go with them. When our first was born, it was like she was out. They just rushed her. Poor guy, like, no one cared about where he was or informing him
Yeah,
about
sure.
anything. He was, like, in the list of, like, priorities they had, he wasn't even on it. So this time he could, like, walk with them and then watch them kinda, get all settled, and here's where, um, the second NICU experience healed so much of the trauma from the first because we had the twins
Hmm.
and, a boy and girl, and, get into the room. The place where the girl was set up was the exact same cot our oldest was set up. And
Oh.
so she was set up there,
No,
and
mama.
my husband is, like, watching them set her up, and it's, again, a completely different experience. It's not 500 wires. It's not trying to restart her heart. It's just like, "Alright, we're gonna put you here. Here's a little oxygen because you might need a little bit more." Um, but we could touch them. While with my first, it was like, "Alright, well, we have to let her, body get used to the environment, so we couldn't touch her for 4 we couldn't hold her for 4 days." So, that happens,
Oh.
and then, I get to visit them that night, and then I go rest. The following morning, the twins are put in the same cot or sorry, in the same, like, section of the NICU, and the section they were put in is the exact same section my oldest was put the second time around. So they had the exact same journey as their sister.
Wow.
When we went to see them in the second cot, in the second, like, section of the NICU, they are breathing on their own. They are both asleep, like, they've got, like, the monitors on there, but the monitors aren't beeping, it's just we're just monitoring their respiratory rates. We could hold them immediately, we could feed them immediately. So here I am in a place that the first time I was in, so much trauma. Like, I am watching, doctors talk about my daughter's brain development, and you're talking about and she's having, like, ultrasounds and X-rays and blood drawn, and then the second time, I'm in the exact same
Mm,
spot,
mhm.
but I'm, like, holding my babies, and they are, uh, being fed from a bottle,
Hmm.
and the NICU doctor that helped us through my eldest, just, like, the first couple of weeks of her life where we're like, "Is she gonna need surgery? Is she not gonna need surgery?" was the same doctor on staff when the twins were born. And he was the one that was like, "Okay, the twins are doing really good. We are going to move them from a high risk NICU that they don't need to be here to a lower risk NICU."
Aw.
So the day I was discharged, they were transferred to a lower risk NICU. And in the lower risk NICU, they were one bed over from where my daughter was the first time. So like they had the exact same bed.
Oh my gosh.
And now instead of having high stress memories of that place, I've got better ones. Like, I wouldn't say that they were, like, great because again, it's always hard leaving your baby when you're in the NICU, but it's walking in the morning and not have to worry about, "Oh, did her oxygen levels need to be increased overnight?" Or did like, it was just completely different experience, and it's wild.
I'm so glad that you got redemption through all of that because I can't imagine how healing that was to be able that they followed the same
Yeah,
journey and it was
yeah,
just like a little bit of a brighter one, you
yeah,
know? That's really special,
yeah, and
really special.
I don't know, I feel like the first NICU experience and journey prepared me for the second, and the second healed the first. Because
Sure.
now, with the
Yeah.
first, because she was in NICU, we did a lot of, I was, like, exclusively pumping, and now with the twins, I find I just to keep them fed, pumping is the way to go, like, tandem feeding, it's great for when I am stuck, but one of the twins absolutely hates it, like, just will scream her head off, does not wanna share, I always joke,
Mhm.
does not wanna share, um but now, because I already had the pumping experience with the first, I'm like, "All right, as much as I hate it, I still don't love pumping. At least I've been through it before."
It's like a full-time job.
It is a lot.
Mhm. It's a lot. I pumped for the twins also, and it was like it's n the pumping is annoying, but it's also all the things that come with it, like the prepping and the cleaning, and it's a lot.
I still
It's a
have the
lot.
hospital grade one because I just find just works a lot better, but having to, like, sit and be stuck to this machine when there's so much going on or so much you should be
Mhm.
doing or need to be doing, ugh, that is what gets to me, and I'm like, "Alright, well, I guess
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't do much for the next half hour." Or trying to feed the twins and pump at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I tried to do that a lot. Like, I tried which was still hard because then I'm like my toddler's, like, on her own because I literally don't have any
Yeah.
more hands, like, pump, both hands doing bottles, and I'm like, "You
Yep.
good?"
It gets a little too quiet and you're like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
That is, like yes, my favorite. I can be hearing, like, dishes breaking, like, people screaming, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
"What are you
"Everything's
doing?"
fine," and then when it's quiet, I'm like, "Uh-oh."
Yep.
What are they what have they gotten into? So, Whit, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it's so vulnerable to be able to open up about your experience and everything that you guys went through, and I'm so glad that there was, like, a redemptive aspect to your story, and thank you for sharing, and I always end every episode with, "If you could have a heart to heart with a twin mom, what would you tell her?" Especially, like, 3 under 3.
I would tell her to give herself some grace. I think as moms, we do such a great job of encouraging other
Mm.
moms. Like, I say motherhood, like, the circle of motherhood is one of the best, most like, you think girlhood is good? Motherhood is, like, a whole different level. We do such a great job of encouraging others, and I think sometimes it's
Mm.
important to turn that encouragement onto ourselves. The version of you right now is still your kid's best version. It's the ones that the twins are going to hold on to. It's the ones that the toddler is going to remember the most of, and they are just grateful that you're there and you were doing a lot more than you think by just being present. So give yourself
Mm.
some
Mhm.
grace. You don't have to have everything figured out or have everything perfect.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true. Oh my gosh, that's good. It reminds me of like those things where it's like the mom thinks about her day and she was like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And then it's like the toddler's
Mhm.
perspective. And it's like, my mommy read to me, my mommy made me lunch. And you're like, oh, like you just have to, yeah, like give yourself grace because you being there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like more magical than you even think. So I love that.
There are times when I'm frustrated and I'm like, we need to go. Let's grab your bags, let's get out the door." And I'll say something and I'll say it in a way that I'm like, "Ugh, I could have said that a little bit better." And I feel so bad about it. But then the toddler's gonna come like 2 seconds later and just be her happy self and be like, "Oh, mom can," and I'm like, "Okay, could I have been better at that? Yes." But also they are so forgiving and they're just happy that you were with them in that moment than you taking care of them.
Yeah. Aw. Well, thank you so much. I had so much fun talking and just thank you for being so vulnerable and open. I just really feel like moms who are going through the NICU or who have had a similar experience are probably just like so thankful.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. Yes, I did too. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy twin mom life to listen along. I hope this podcast shed some light on a topic that's been on your heart and gave you more confidence as a twin mama. If you know a twin mom, please send this her way. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Check out the show notes to be connected with today's guest and get discount codes for brands I love. See you next Thursday. Until then, you were made for this.